Seems like this is a pretty much a done deal, but does it actually matter for investors here? Why should markets actually pay attention this weekend?
Good morning. Thanks very much for having me back on the show. Yes, we would agree it's a done deal that there's an LDP victory that's just simply going to happen. But it's not an unimportant election. We think that you can learn a lot by the degree of victory and subsequently what happens. So what are the what happens things that investors should be thinking about? Is there going to be a cabinet reshuffle? If there's not enough of a large, the margin of victory is not as high, perhaps as the LDP would like it, do we finally shelve this discussion about changes to the Constitution and move on to other matters? There will be impact. It's just the impact is not going to be that the LDP loses control of the upper house, but right. Directionality for policy will be determined by the margin of victory.
And does it concern you as an investor? Yvonne was talking about this, the lack of an opposition to check and balance whether or not the policies that have been put in place are the right ones. Frankly, yes, you have a bigger mandate, but what have they done with that mandate? Remind us, where are we in Abenomics?
Well, this is why what happens after the election is going to be very important. Are there changes to the cabinet? Is the composition going to change? Because the LDP doesn't have opposition, but that doesn't mean that within the LDP there aren't dramatically different views on what should be, let's say, the top three priorities once you receive or re-receive this mandate through an upper house election. And who's, by the way, the positioning's already, who's going to be the next prime minister after Abe when he's done. Now's more than likely, I think, going to be the beginning of the jockeying for position, if you will, and we'll start to see some disclosure on who Abe puts in what positions in the cabinet to potentially pave the way for his successor.
Right. Let's talk a little more about markets as well. I mean, especially if we do see this sales tax hike in October, Ed. I think we've been talking about it for years now. What does that mean for markets then? Does that put a cap on any kind of gains we're going to see?
I think that's already baked in, frankly, to the pie, as it were. The market expects this to happen, and we expect to be done with it for quite a long time. The sort of expectation is we go to 10%, and for the next 10 years, nothing else is going to happen, and now we've moved on from that issue. Businesses are prepared for this change, by and large. Small, medium, and large businesses are all planning on it. It's going to happen, and so it's baked in. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in other policy areas. So you see right now rising Japan-Korea conflict. That's primarily political conflict, but it's having significant economic impact, frankly. If that situation worsens, there are going to be winners and losers. What is going to be the ultimate direction of the U.S.-China trade policy and how that very dramatically affects certain parts of the Japanese economy is it's a given. It's going to have an effect. Again, what's the degree and where, as an investor, do you want to be getting long or getting short? Because there are potentially going to be some losers as well going forward.